So first and foremost, a huge thank you to our sponsor, Broad Sky. So we have Todd Hulsenbeck on the line or on the meeting with us. Todd, if you want to a quick introduction of yourself.
Good morning. I'm Todd Hulsenbeck. I'm actually the Southeast channel manager for Broad Sky Network. So this will give me the opportunity to do an unsolicited commercial for corporate data and voice. Now, I've worked with them for a good while. I know the folks well. When I came to Broad Sky last fall, we're supposed to stay in geographic boundaries, but because they were not working with us, and I know these folks so well and enjoy working with them, I got a special exception to be their channel manager. So if you are working with these folks, you already know it. If you don't, they're one of the best in the business as far as I'm concerned. And really simply, it's that they look out for their customers first and foremost. They want to make money just like anybody else, but they figure they make money over time by treating people right. I love working with them. I'm excited, and I'm very excited to be here this morning as well. Excited to be at Broad Sky. So excited that I wore my matching blue to CDVS shirt with my Broad Sky logo on it. Haven't had that on in about 3 months, so that's a good thing. And really looking forward to talking with you all about what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and where it might fit in your business application. So I look forward to that.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Todd. That was awfully nice of you. I will let the folks here at Corporate Data, the crew that's in attendance, introduce themselves. You may have seen emails from some of these people, so you might as well put a face with a name. Might as well start. Christy, if you want to start.
Hi, I'm Christy Surgeon. I do sales, marketing, and project management. Excited for the event today.
Excellent. Thank you, Christy. Pete, if you want to say hello.
Sure. Hi, Pete Lankard here, client specialist down in Rhode Island, covering Rhode Island, Southeast Mass, and Connecticut. Thanks for being here, guys.
Excellent. Rachel, I know you and Kelly, for some reason, are having some challenges. I don't know if you can hear us, and if you want to try to say hi. Probably not. All right, Manny, you're on the line as well. If you want to say hello.
Hi, how you doing? Manny Stampinato, Vice President of Operations, and I think that Rachel's trying to chime in over me. Okay.
All right. So we do have an agenda here. Doing our welcomes and our in CDVS introduction. Unfortunately, the slide did not get updated. I apologize, but we do not have 8x8 with us today. We have Todd, as I mentioned, from Broad Sky. So we'll have him from approximately 11 past to about 10 of. And at the end, we'll be doing Q&A and raffles. But again, we encourage questions throughout the presentation. Isn't that correct, Todd? So we don't want people to have to wait till the end.
Absolutely, and we will we'll take pauses. So if they'll do that chat question so that you or somebody on your team knows, I'll stop there. It just gets a little bit chaotic if everybody starts trying to ask a question at one time. Now, at the end, we'll absolutely open it up and we'll talk amongst ourselves. So, really, the more engaged, the better it is for everybody.
Excellent. Yes. A few housekeeping items. Christy will be muting all the attendees. So at that point, presenters must unmute themselves to be heard. So Todd, just remember that. We are recording this session, so we'll be sending out this session in a link for folks to review if there's information that you want to review, or maybe pass it along to others that might find benefit out of this session. Each attendee that is present at the end of the presentation or the session here will receive a Grubhub Uber Eats gift card, and Todd will be sending those out. Correct, Todd?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Appreciate that. And at the end, we will be drawing two names for gift cards, e-gift cards. Again, those you must be present to win at the end. You only can win once, even though there's 2 cards. For each qualifying question we receive, you will put an additional chance to win a raffle prize. So again, completely encouraging appropriate questions to be asked. Again, Todd already did a great introduction of who corporate data or CDVS is, but it's funny, Todd, you haven't seen this presentation, so a lot of this you've already said, but I'm going to say it again.
Sorry, I stole your thunder.
It's amazing. But first and foremost, we do focus on what's important to the customer. As Todd mentioned, as elegant as he mentioned it, yeah, we are in business to make money, but we're comfortable about doing it over time. So we know if we do the right thing, we listen to the customer, we help them, and to improve their communications, and that's what our focus is about: helping organizations communicate. We know we're going to make money. Do the right thing over time. We'll make money, and we can support our families, and that's really it's a very simple business model, but that's all it is. We do act as an extension of our customers' team, your team, if you would like, and we act as that extension as much or as little as you want us to. So we're very flexible in that. We do have the ability, and quite often help with project planning and implementation. We quite often are an additional resource for our customers. We take a high touch, of course, no touching right now, approach to our model. We have an extremely high customer retention rate. We are passionate about what we do, and a little more about the simplicity of our business model. We're honest. We hold each other to a high integrity and accountability. So a little more about us. We want to be a partner, not just a vendor. And again, as some of you already you heard Todd mention it, that's who we are. It's a very simple approach, I keep saying, but I can't stress that enough. We don't want to be a vendor. We want to be a partner. So before I turn it over, don't forget, summer officially begins, calendar-wise on Saturday. So we all should be very excited. Of course, keep the social distancing in mind. But to all the fathers that are on with us, a happy Father's Day to all. So I am going to stop sharing and turn it over to Todd.
Thank you.
All right.
See, I'm going to do the whole thing. I'm going to go to the PowerPoint. I'm going to go to the slideshow from the beginning. All right. Can everybody see my screen with the beautiful picture of me down in the bottom right-hand corner?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
great. So, Joe, I didn't know that I was going to have to apologize right off the bat. I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but I hadn't seen that slide. But really important that that's who they are, what they do. I am from Broad Sky Networks, and we're going to spend, half hour, 40 minutes in this presentation with hopefully some questions as we go, and then we'll open it up for interactive questions at the end. Now, one of the things about the presentation mode is hard to see other things when you got your full screen PowerPoint going. I will be pausing and asking if there's any questions via chat. Feel free to get those in, and we'll kind of keep them timed with what we're doing. But if you want to hold your powder till the very end, we'll do that. So, as I said, I'm the Southeast Channel Manager. I guess one of the things that you guys get is, to listen to me talk for a half an hour, because you don't hear people talk like me very often, I'm sure. We'll do what we can to kind of keep it simple, because I'm simple from that standpoint. And hopefully you'll see some reasons that maybe you want to work with Broad Sky in the future. My first sales pitch, and while we try and work in partnership as well, I'm going to be talking with Joe about getting some wireless backup for Rachel so that she's got a good internet connection when that one at home's not acting on. We'll probably help her out on that. So Broad Sky Networks, we're based out of Bend, Oregon, and we've been around since 2003. Frequently, I joke with folks as I talk about this presentation about what the heck they were doing in 2003 with wireless networks, because we weren't even on a 3G network. We're going to talk about the evolution of networks and whatnot as we go along, but they were selling satellite services. There were some applications that came. But the truth of the matter is, Broad Sky was kicking and fighting and struggling along until about 2016. And then as the 4G network got fully deployed around the country, they took about 12 years to become an overnight success. We've been an Inc. 500 company the last 3 years in a row, and fully hope we're going to do that again. Within the telecom world, we're one of the MSP 501, which is an award for service providers within the telecommunications industry. We won that last year. And we focus on, it says in our logo, we make wireless work. It's a little bit more complex than you think it is. And we're going to talk about our differentiators of what we do. We have a couple of sister companies, TechLink, that can do field services and cabling and installing digital displays, that kind of thing. And we have a company called TechLink Solutions that can do application development. That's really one of the secret sauces of our company is, in addition to the outsourced application development that they do, they've done the things that work for us. I'm going to cover a few of those as we go. So really what we're going to try and cover, at a brisk pace here is why wireless is something we need to talk about now, why Broad Sky and how we win business, what our differentiators are, best cases in the industry uses for it. Maybe they fit yours, maybe they don't. I bet they do a little bit down the line. Talk about a couple of real life use cases. We're going to talk about something called POTS replacement. POTS stands for plain old telephone service. It's a new offering that we've added to our wireless repertoire. And it's going to be, if it's not a big deal for you now, it's going to be a big deal at some point in the future. And we'll talk about that. Then we'll do the Q&A and hand it back. All right. Any questions that you want to ask about me, what my favorite color is, that kind of thing before we go? Got any questions out there now, Joe?
We don't yet, but I'm sure we will.
That's fine. That's fine. So the first thing you talk about are the partnerships that we have. You'll notice that the first three we mentioned are AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. So really, we're an aggregator of all three networks. And that's one of the first things that you need to know from a differentiation standpoint. Now, you can go to Verizon, you can go to one of the carriers, but I think we all know from carrying our cell phones around, some places, there's a lot of places that have good coverage. But if you live in, let's say somewhere in New Hampshire, there's some places where Verizon's good, and there's some places where AT&T's good. There's a few places where T-Mobile is good, but it depends on tower location, network deployment, and knowing what the right application is makes a difference. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. You also see Bell, Telus, and Rogers. So if you happen to be a Canadian company on here, we can work with you as well from there. These devices, Cisco will be familiar to pretty much everyone on the call. That's a common name. Cradlepoint and Peplink are two of the premier wireless router providers. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go. We can sell Apple. We can sell Microsoft Surface. We've got other things that we do. But we've been doing this for a long time, and we're platinum with everybody that we partner with. So the real question is, why have this conversation? Why are we talking about wireless being deployed into your business network now? Well, the first reason is people are really becoming dependent on the internet. They can't be down at all. You've got any outages are revenue, immediate loss revenue. point of sales and retail. We're going to go through examples, but you can't afford real downtime. And one of the things that people are realizing is that, hey, even though I've got a Comcast and I've got somebody with fiber, a lot of it's coming in through the same conduit and it's going into the same telco closet. There's multiple reasons that those two redundant circuits that you purchased may still have a single point of failure, and it doesn't give you true redundancy. Wireless 4G LTE gives you true redundancy because the router's sitting up in the office with you and not in the telco closet. And the odds of the backhoe hitting the same time somebody runs over a cell tower that's fenced and guarded and everything else are pretty slim to none. So real time there. The other thing that's happening is we're growing what we call the IoT, or the Internet of Things marketplace. And what we're talking about is connected devices to the internet, not necessarily connected directly to a network, but connected so that people can monitor, measure, do trucks that are sending data back to the company. But even on simple business levels, a remote warehouse and a security alarm that goes to it, flow meters and pumps in manufacturing facilities, certain manufacturing data. There's just countless numbers of devices that are connecting to the internet, and some of those it's not conducive to run a wired internet connection for 1, 2, 5 small devices carrying small amounts of data. So we become an alternative for those. I said the downtime is lost revenue. Just, I've got reference stories in the presentation, but my favorite one, and this is no kidding, going on right now. You can see my picture on here. I ain't the skinniest guy. I ought not be going to Arby's, but I was at Arby's about 4 weeks ago, wanting to get my beef and cheddar. There were 2 cars in front of me that went up to the speaker to order in the drive-through. They just drove away to the right. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here? I get up there and they've got a sign up that says cash only. And I kind of knew what was going on. So then I had some cash and I wanted my beef and cheddar. So I walked around and started talking. I said, why are you cash only? Well, the internet's down. Really? Do you have a backup? Yeah, but it doesn't work. It's not working either. So I asked him to bring the manager over. The guy, he couldn't make the decision, but he pushed me up to the owner, and it's costing them hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a week in internet outages. And this guy's got about 20 fast food restaurants that he owns and manages. It's a big deal for him to lose that revenue. And for a relatively inexpensive price, Broad Sky can eliminate that lost revenue. The last thing we're going to talk about is fast internet. 4G is getting fast enough now, and that's really why we've had that hockey stick the last 3 years. You can expect on just a typical deployment with us, just a 4G deployment, somewhere between 25 and 45 megabytes per second down, somewhere between 10 and 20 megabytes up speed. That's reasonable speed to conduct business. When we were on 3G and we were lucky to get 2 meg down and 500K up, that it doesn't really help if you kick over to that connection and you can't get enough throughput in it to run your operations. So 4G has made it so that it is business usable now, and 5G is coming. Let me help reset some expectations compared to the commercials that you're seeing on TV all day, every day about 5G being here. Well, if you're, in one end of the particular football stadiums that Verizon has rolled it out in, if you're walking down Broadway outside a building in Manhattan, yes, sir, 5G is here right now. But when you go into the restaurant, it's not there. 5G is going to be deployed. Location, city size are going to make a difference. But when it gets deployed in your area, it's going to be a game changer. When you start talking about potentially gigabyte download speeds, hospitals doing digital imaging over wireless networks, real-time data coming from multi locations and not choking the network down. It's coming. So the thought being, get your network ready, get it maybe expandable from a router standpoint, so that when 5G is deployed in your area, you can migrate. But building your network now to incorporate wireless data is an important thing, and that's one of the things we do.
Hey, Todd.
Yes.
I have a question for you from me.
Sure.
So this whole thing, this whole 5G, like you said, right? We're seeing commercials. It looks like it's here, even though you say it's not here. Does Broad Sky have more, and I say more honest insight? So if any of our participants here afterwards need to reach out to get the real scoop of what you're able to do with 5G, are you willing to share the
I'm going to talk to anybody. We're not, I think Mary's still on here. Mary, maybe one of the things we need to talk about is making a presentation about, where are we now with 5G kind of thing. But in a 1 or 2 minute encapsulation, I'm going to tell you, it's in the cities. It's the thing about 5G is because it's on that high frequency. We're talking about gigahertz frequencies, so it's a very narrow frequency. It doesn't penetrate buildings very well. So even where they're deploying it on city blocks, somebody's going to have to build a 5G capable network with inside the building, mount an exterior antenna, get things in. It's a little bit more complex. The other thing, which I can tell you really simply, which is frustrating all of us in the few places where it can be, is that you can get 5G right now, say, for example, on T-Mobile. Separate conversation about whether that's really 5G or not, because it's about 200 meg download speeds. But here's the devices. They got a Samsung tablet and a Samsung phone. There are 0 Cisco Peplink Cradle Point routers that are authorized to run on any of the 3 carriers' networks and support 5G. They're all in testing. We hope they have them, and I can just about guarantee you that there might be some people that tie Broad Sky, but there will be no one faster to market with business quality 5G capacity. It's just a question of when those get approved, and then it's a question of looking at networks and going, yes, we can deploy it in your area, and no, not yours yet. Does that kind of answer it in the short run for you?
I think it does. We do have a question from Sean D.
Sure.
And I want to make sure we're cognizant of the time. But
Sure.
He says, I'm sure this is coming, but why wouldn't I just go direct to Verizon Wireless for services? What makes Broad Sky special? So if this is something that you're going to cover,
you can, Sean, you can literally hold your breath until I answer that question. Because here we go. Why Broad Sky Network?
There you go.
All right. So we make wireless work is we take that very seriously. If you're on multi-location deployments, it literally is a no-brainer because we're going to put the right carrier at the right location. If you are a single location, if you don't do some pre-engineering and look beforehand, you may make a purchase that you get stuck with, and you're not getting the optimum throughput or the optimum carrier in the location that you're at. The easiest way to say that, and this is no offense to all 3 of our platinum partners, but Verizon's not going to sell you anything but Verizon network, right? And if it's good enough, you're going to live with it when it turns out that in that location, as an example, T-Mobile really shines in that particular location and you never found out about it. So that's one reason. We do a rigorous pre-engineering process. We call it the gold standard. We can monitor signal strength. We can use high signal gain antennas. We know what's going on. We use enterprise grade routers. And so one of the things that the carriers are not going to do is they know that customers tend to be super price sensitive without knowing what the application that they're running is. And they'll sell you, you know, the little MiFis like you used to plug your laptop in 5-6 years ago. They'll sell you something like that. It has a weak antenna, it has no processing power, and it was never built for running business applications on it. We've seen since the coronavirus started 3 or 4 months ago, a lot of people bought them. Now they're going, oh gosh, we have business applications. We actually need a couple of paddle antennas. We need Cat6 capability so that we can get some throughput through this device. We got some security on it. We can run a VPN tunnel and get a static IP address. So those are part of the reasons. Us doing the homework to make sure that you've got the best application. Number two is that dual SIM provisioning. So if you buy from AT&T, you've got AT&T. One of the things that people don't talk about, growth, change. What happens if a cell tower has problems? What happens if an area is in a great growth period and it's not that the cell tower has a problem, it just gets really congested and you don't have room for it. We have a second SIM in there so we can switch you over. You're multi-carrier and have that capability, okay? Now, if you're a customer that has multiple locations, some of the advantages of that are, if you got more than 5 locations, we can actually pool the data for those plans, even if they're on disparate carriers. So 2 on AT&T, 2 on Verizon, 1 on T-Mobile. You got 5 gigs each, so you got 25 gigs total. If somebody's not using all theirs, you can pull that data and not run into the from an overage standard. We have some quote unquote unlimited plans. That'll be something to save for questions because I'll tell you some stories about unlimited and all you can eat and whether that's even real or not. We also have a tool. I was talking about TechLink services. We have a tool called Wireless Window that is built out and deploying to our customers even now. Multiple devices, so not just the device we have, but devices that we have SIMs in so that we can see them. We can see the throughput. You can change the bill. You can change the SIM from one to another, so you, as a customer, get some of that remote management capability. We do static IPs. Some of our competitors don't. Some do. But you can get a single invoice from that, and you've got no CapEx options for us. These are not inexpensive routers that we're sending out. But if you're going to a multi-year plan with us, we can get you down to where it costs you $25 to get set up and you start getting billed next month. So really powerful.
Hey, Todd,
really want to go. Sure, Joe. Go ahead.
Sorry, we have another question. This one's from Bill. You spoke about a switchover. So first part of the question is that switchover automatic? The follow-up, or is there some kind of algorithm employed for load balancing to ensure that it always uses the best performance?
Sure. Great question. The answer is kind of simple. Our default mode is 1 active, 1 passive, right? And if we see a problem, we can proactively change it without customer interaction. If the customer has a need for it, we can absolutely talk about active, and that's exactly what happens on active SIMs. Costs a little bit more because I got 2 accounts running there, but what happens then is if we see performance better on one or the other, that's where the throughput goes. That answers you. I'll keep moving.
I believe it does.
Real quick on this, just another kind of the piece of the gold standard. Just, usually you would think, oh, well, whatever's the closest tower, that's where I'm going to get my signal for. This is not the perfect illustration, but it's pretty good. Site 4 is the one I want to talk about for a second up at the top. If I just glanced at this map, I would go, oh, well, the AT&T cell tower is the closest to site 4. Let's put it on the AT&T SIM card. But we look at not only where it is, but where the arrays are lined, the little circles that demonstrate the waves. If they're pointed askew to the site we're at, they may not get the best signal strength. So that Verizon tower is pointed more towards Site 4. Even though it's further away, it gets the best signal. We do this mapping per location that we sign up for a customer. It makes a world of difference in our customers' experience and performance. So real quick, I know each of the customers that are on here have got your own use cases, but to just spur your thinking of where this works and where it might work well. Retail, I told you the Arby's story. We've done retail chains where we did pop-up stores for them, or a store within a store. So retailers don't like people plugging into their networks because they're worried about somebody trying to steal all the credit cards and whatnot. So if you're doing retail, it goes without saying. That kind of goes to the same thing with, how many national pizza chains are there? I think, 3, 4. One of them is primary for us, over 1,100 locations. Food wholesaler and a distributor, because they need their order flow and deal flow, because of dispatching, knowing what's in inventory, all of the things that they have connected, they can't afford to be down. Primary car dealership just need failover for when the primary internet circuit is delayed. One thing that I do want to mention in here, because I used to think it myself, I spent a lot of years in voice over internet, and you're like, I don't want my VoIP phones on a wireless network. And before I came to Broad Sky, I would have argued with you on that subject. But that would have been true probably 5 years ago. But now that 4G is deployed, the real thing that makes a difference for quality of voice over internet calling is latency. And Broad Sky Network, typical deployment, 75 milliseconds of latency or less. So really can handle voice over internet calls as well. I think that kind of solves that problem. I'm running a little bit slow, so I'm not going to talk about the bank. If somebody wants to talk about banks, ask a question, and I'll talk specifically about them. I do want to bring up this other, so that you folks have it in your mind. I call this the bacon saver. You've got a new location that you're opening up, or you're making a move. Now, these things don't happen that often, but they do happen. Your fantastic partner, Corporate Data and Voice, has talked to, pick the carrier that's going to provide your internet connection. And you're going to move, you don't want to move on Father's Day weekend, but you're moving next weekend, and everything was rolling along. They have a firm order commit date. And this afternoon, you get an email, well, we've got a facilities issue. We were going to get you in on June the 28th, but now it's going to be July 15th or August 15th. And people are like, well, I got the boxes packed up. I got to go. We can save you and your company's bacon by doing a temporary deployment. We can be the primary internet. And look, we're not, we can talk about pricing. Usually don't talk about pricing in the presentation. Happen to talk about it afterwards. But obviously, metered data is going to cost more than an all-you-can-eat circuit that you're getting from Comcast or from, AT&T fiber or whatever. But we can make it work. And in fact, we can make it work quickly. Did it 2 weeks ago. Customer had an outage because of a storm. Something happened to the wire. They weren't going to be up for a while. They were desperate. Got an order on Thursday before noon Eastern time. Got the order in properly. Got everything shipped. They had internet service by Friday afternoon. Paid a little bit of an expedite fee. But if you have some kind of crisis that comes up, even if you don't use us regularly, we can be that temporary solution. We will do month-to-month contracts. They've got some fees associated with them, but we can do that for you. A lot of our customers now realizing the necessity, we'll go ahead and sign a contract. This is another thing that I probably should have talked to them more about what makes us different. But what they'll do is they'll sign up for how many gigabytes they're going to use, 20 or 30 gigabytes as their primary internet connection. And then once they get their regular internet connection in, we'll turn it down to a 1 gigabyte plan. So for $70 or so, they've now got a full backup circuit that works. Last thing on that is we hate overages. And I never would have thought that this would be such a key differentiator for us. We sell a lot of folks that failover as a service or that backup, and we sell it on a 1 gigabyte plan. And most of the time, you're just paying that 1 gigabyte. On the month when you go down, the month when you have an outage, the month when something crazy happens, we have a team of 3 people that are sitting there monitoring data usage for all of our customers. And we have 2 meetings a week where high usage accounts are brought up, and we will proactively notify you. We can upgrade an account for a month. So let's say, ABC company goes down here on the 15th. We send the notification. They go, yeah, we're actually going to be down for another week because they've got something they've got to do for a fiber cut. Kind of extrapolate what the data they need is. We turn it up to a 20 gig plan. We get them to sign something. We sign an upgrade to the contract. And then we turn it right back down on July 1st. And our customers appreciate so much that we do it in that plan and save them money instead of just waiting. And next month in July, when they get the bill, they go, oh, thank you for paying us $20 per gigabyte in overage fees instead of getting it on a plan rate. It's a huge differentiator for us. Any questions about the wireless from a high-end side now before I make the transition to our other service?
Yeah, so Todd, we do have a question from Sean. If we need to penetrate the buildings for antennas, who handles that installation? Does Broad Sky, does CDVS, does someone else?
So my answer is, Joe, I don't think I've ever asked you what you do. I know you do wiring and whatnot. I don't know if you do antenna installs. If you want to do it, you can. We have a sister company that we mentioned at the beginning. If an antenna is needed, an install, if you want to do a self-install, you can. If you want us to do it, we can absolutely do it. We quote it, bid it, and can roll that out. That's what TechLink Services, that's kind of one of the core of their business. And why the guy that owns both of these companies does what he does. I will just point out to you, we did some stats at the beginning of this year. 96% of the deployments that we did in 2019 did not require an antenna. So we do that pre-engineering to get good circuit and get good throughput beforehand. But in the case we do, we can absolutely. Other questions?
Nope, we got a perfect thank you. So I think we're good. Just a time check, right? So we have about 15 minutes.
Oh, I'm not even going to take that long. We're still
okay.
Get out ahead. We're good.
There you go.
All right. So we're going to spend about 5-10 minutes talking about POTS. And I have to. You never make assumptions, right? So I don't know that you know. Most people think POTS, and that includes me, plain old telephone service. I don't know if Mary is still on or not, but she's such a brilliant researcher and marketer. She actually found out the original acronym for POTS, which I've learned as we've gotten into this over the last couple of months. If you remember, you're listening to me, you're probably thinking, this Andy Griffith and Mayberry talking, and that'll make you think of Sarah. That you called Sarah and said, "Get me my house" or "Get me the mayor's office." Most of those operators in small towns sat in the post office because that was a central location. So the real acronym for POTS, here's your new thought of the day, was post office telephone service. That's where it came from. And, you know, we can go back to Alexander Graham Bell and talk about phones, but we all know that for the first 100 years, it was deployment and rolling out of basically two twisted copper wires that came from a telephone switching station. They got up on a pole or they went underground eventually, but they ran to somebody's house and then a wire came down. That twisted wire went to the phone system. Now, what people kind of forget about that was not only was it providing um, uh, the ability to run our voice back and forth across that, but it was also providing power to the phone. It was a very low voltage power supply. It wouldn't electrocute you or anything, but the power was actually coming through the wires. And that's how telecom worked for years and years and years. We started going digital in the 60s and the 70s. We're not going to go into a whole history of telecom, but what we are going to say is that as the internet came along and internet protocol, which is the IP of voice over IP, came along, it became more and more obvious that having that twisted copper wire was not necessarily vital anymore. One of the things that extended the life of that twisted copper wire was DSL services. And some of you may still have them because that's the only thing you can get for internet access. But it's very relatively slow compared to the other networks. And these copper wire systems, a lot of them have been in place 50, 75 years without extensive upgrades on them. And they are very now expensive to maintain. So what has been happening for the last 5 years is the AT&Ts and the Granite's and the Windstreams have all been whining to the FCC, oh, we can't keep these copper networks up. It's going to bankrupt us. It's going to kill us. And the FCC had told them 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, we're going to let you retire these networks. Well, it has started now. It's in process. It kind of was slowly starting, a couple 3 years ago, where if you wanted a copper line and they had facilities there, sure, they'd give you one. But people were not going to build out new copper facilities for new locations. Joe, does anything like that come to mind? Like an elevator that needed a telephone? We're seeing that happen now. What you should do is look at your phone bill because, and look, like I said, I've worked with corporate data and voice people a long time. One of the things they're going to do is they're going to go, thank you for putting your hosted voice service with us, or thank you for using SIP trunks for your voice. Now, here's what you need to do. You need to keep those 2 lines for your fire alarm. Oh, you've got an elevator, you need to keep one for that. You can look at the things on the screen that you see from a use case for those old twisted copper wires. If your bills aren't going up dramatically, they're going to. Is it going to be this year, next year? It all depends on geography. But the world is changing. It's going to be harder to get them. It's going to be harder to get phone numbers. And so one of the things that we did was said, hey, look, we're connected to these networks. We started with a partner, but now we can deploy these replacements for copper lines via Broad Sky network. The challenge with this is we don't know when or where people are going to change. I'm going to cut to the chase. Usually don't talk about pricing, but it really simplifies it here. For $54.95 plus some tax, and not, an AT&T bill tax with USF and go find your cousin and printed bill tax, and now $54.95 is $78.95. It's going to be $59 and some change with some tax. We can provide a replacement to that POTS line. If you've got lines for $30 right now, this is probably not really interesting to you. but you're going to get increases, and it's going to happen sooner than you think. We're seeing in Atlanta, Georgia, quotes for greater than $110 a line right now. We're seeing places in Chicago that are above 150. We're seeing places in South Carolina or Austin where they're already receiving the notifications going, you have these phone numbers with us. They will not work in 90 days. You need to find a solution. So we are that solution. We can do it easily. More importantly, we can do it properly so that it's fire marshal approved in the location that you're at. On that math of the $54.95, one thing that may make it compelling for you to think about it in the near term is most of the time to be fire marshal approved to get your occupancy permit, you need 2 call paths for a fire alarm out. So that's 2 POTS lines. The way we sell the solution, we give you 2 POTS lines in our fire alarm solution and still charge you just $54.95. This particularly fire alarm, I put this up so that you see what you're getting. We're going to get dual call path out. We can do IP commercial fire alarms if we need to make sure those are getting out. We meet all of the fire marshal standards that need to be in place. We've got a battery backup supply in place because, not really good if you cut power to a building and it's burning and it doesn't tell you that the fire alarm's deployed. Battery backup, call capability, redundant call paths, great signaling, and great signal boost circuitry on those big paddles there. So all of this has been thought through and done from a fire alarm standpoint so that it works and it works well. We'll do the install. In fact, we'll insist that we do the install on this. Once again, it'll be our sister company, TechLink, that does it. We charge $125 for an install, $54.95 per line per month. And it's a 3-year deal. Common sense tells you to look at that red box and the antennas and all the circuit cards and everything in there to realize we've got some pretty substantial equipment in there. So it's a 3-year deal. But you're going to be looking for something in the next 2, 3, 5 years to replace those copper wires that you have running these kind of things. We would like for you to consider us. Elevators, I mentioned in front of Joe as well. Joe may talk to it, but the last place I was at was Voice, and we cooked up a wacky solution because he couldn't get a copper wire to an elevator for a customer. And, where I was before, and the reason Voice people never talked about this is, it's one thing if you got to sit on an elevator for a few extra minutes because something didn't work or a voice call didn't go, but man, I didn't want the responsibility of a fire alarm. Here, I'm perfectly comfortable with that responsibility because we built the solution that works and is fire marshal approved. We can do lots of other alarms. I'm talking with a property management company down here, and one of the interesting things I found is that they just did a weird thing. They've got sump alarms in every one of their buildings to tell them about flow. They actually have a phone line connected to all those. So as we're doing these quotes, it's incumbent upon them. They want to do that. So some places you may have one thing you want to replace, fire alarm. Some places you may have fire alarm, elevator. You may want to do fax. You may want to do some out-of-band management or a couple of devices that you have. We can do all those things through POTS replacement. This is just talking about how we do it from a installation as a service standpoint. We know the technicians. We've vetted the technicians. We've trained the technicians. We do it properly. It's not you hoping you find somebody that knows what they're doing. These people are doing them or have been doing them for a great time. We've got national presence. Okay, we do our best to get to do these in one truck roll. Got a couple of requirements that we ask on the POTS. need to have your wires identified beforehand. Some telecom closets are not beautiful images, but if you can get those, where we're identified, we're going to put that box in. We're going to jump her over to a 66 block, which if you're not the IT guy within your company, the 66 block is really just one of those little junction panels where they punch in the wires in one, and then we punch in our wires there, and that cross connects those wires and makes a circuit. We will also give you, and really is pretty powerful, once this install is done, we're going to send you documents with pictures of what we've done, how we did it, when we did it, the completion rate. If you ever come back and, a fire marshal or somebody is questioning the integrity of your installation, you've got documentation. Let me ask if there are any questions that have come up since I started talking on pots, Joe.
Nope. It seems like
I was talking about the most exciting thing there was there. But I will tell you that that's kind of it. I'm where I'm at. I'm done. I always like to put my junior samples there. There's really not a reason that you need to call me directly because you've got this fantastic team. Call. I am going to escape out of presentation mode so that I can see the screen, and I am going to turn the sharing. Do I need to leave? I'll leave the sharing with me, or did I escape out?
Yeah, hit the stop sharing at the bottom of your screen if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
Great. Awesome. So Todd, as always, great job. I actually learned something else every time we chat, or I hear a presentation, I do learn something. So, from my perspective, there's lots of reasons to be reaching out. Even because your wealth of knowledge in the industry, even if you don't have an answer to a challenge somebody's running into, you may have a way for them to find an answer, right?
I try and be like y'all and help when I can.
Yeah. So that's I think that's why you and I have done so much great business together. We've helped each other out, come up with some creative answers to some really creative problems in the past.
Absolutely.
But neither one of us will not say we can't help if we can't help, right? So if we're not gonna take that square peg and put it in that round hole if it doesn't make sense.
Right.
All right, great. So I am going to ask one last time, do we have any more questions from the audience before we do the raffles? And I don't see any more. So we did say it's a live raffle. We do a live raffle. No funny business here. It's not a question, but I am from Sean getting a very good presentation. Thank you. So thumbs up.
Thanks, Sean. Right. I'll get you your extra card in the mail. Thank you.
All right. So the first winner of, and this is one of the first two gift cards, John Locke. So John, congratulations. You'll be getting an e-gift card for $50 to, did we say Amazon, Best Buy, or what do we say?
I think we said we'd split them up, one Amazon, one Best Buy, but I will send John an email and ask preference. How about that?
That's even better. All right, awesome.
You're gonna give me John's email when we get through, and we'll go.
We will. And now, no funny business here. I don't know if he's thinking the right.
Oh!
Sean, your buddy Sean.
Sean, see how I cooked that up for you, friend? Anything I can do to help.
Sean gets lucky on our tech talks. I don't know what it is.
That's excellent. So again, everyone, thank you for spending the last hour with us. Huge thank you, Todd. Did a great job again for us, and looking forward to bringing some of these questions. Right, that's usually we come up with business. Right, it's questions that we come up with. We find a solution, and again, that's how we get paid. Right.
That's the key to it, Joe. Is we solve things with wireless networks. If any of you folks that are on here have some connectivity issues that you're trying to solve a problem, talk to Joe. We'll happily talk to you. And if wireless works, we'll make it work. If it's not a fit for what you're doing, we'll help you go in the right direction. We're here. And I thank y'all for the time. I hope y'all found this useful.
Absolutely. Well, that's what we had for you, folks. Again, we're going to follow this up with your Grubhub cards. If you were one of the 2 winners, John and Sean, you'll be getting emails as well for over and above your Grubhub card. We will also be sending this recording out to folks, again, in a link. And in that link, you'll see our previous tech talks with some of our other vendors, and continue to check in as we have more of these tech talks lined up throughout the summer. So again, a big thank you, Todd. Big thank you to everyone, the CDVS crew. Summer is here. Happy Father's Day to everyone, all the fathers that joined us today, and have a great day.